it has been a good introduction and the landing story to what I'm going to share, because I think it's the continuation, right? You hear from we take all the jargon, right? Is that we seldom discuss this in our architecture world, but I think it has brought us a new perspective. Okay, so my topic today is about sustainability. I'm not so sure how many of you involved or part of the sustainability team in your organization. 1, 2, 3, not bad. The rest, no choice lah. My boss asked me to attend this conference, right? So that tomorrow you know what to do when your boss call in for the sustainability meeting. Okay, you like it or not, you cannot run away for the next, I think, until 2030. Okay, because by then they call it Agenda 2030, right? By then, I think the organization unlikely can survive without showing your sustainability index, right? Before I deal with you, typically I will ask, submit your sustainability index. Where are you? Okay, oh, you are below par, sorry. We choose another partner and etc. Okay, so sustainability, I think, is a big topic, but actually started not long ago, 2015. Okay, so let me just share with you on the just one introduction, okay, so that everybody understand when we talk about sustainability. Because sustainability means I need to be able to sustain, yes, some sort, but I think it's have a bigger picture than just the word sustainability. I think it was originated from by the United Nations in 2015, and they have 7 interlinked goals. Okay, you like it or not, the whole world already agree, the whole nation, okay, including of course Singapore and the rest of the nation, right? And then after that, they need to propagate all the 17 to a respective ministry, agency, as well as now I think Singapore Stock Exchange, SGX, already mandated by 2030, all the listed company need to have some sort of contribution to this. Okay, so of course now we talk is simpler, right? That's why I think you come across that many organizations quickly or immediately form task force, okay, sustainability department. After that, what happened? They need a boss. What do you call the boss now? Chief Sustainability Officer. Okay, CSO. It's common one, right? But do you know what they do? Not sure. Okay, whatever thing about sustainability, okay, this is the mandate from the senior management, right? Then of course you heard the word ESG, yes? ESG is a kind of the measurement. Okay, how do you know that we achieve SDG? So they have some sort of the report, the indexing, the rating, etc. Okay, to make sure that you are so-called being measured, right? In terms of the all the area of the 17 goals that I'm going to share with you. So basically about environment, social and corporate governance. So in whatever we do, how can we contribute to that? And then they got some sort of the index, okay, to tell where we are. Like now, I think if you buy any food, processed food, right? They tell you all the whatever, like you buy tidbits or milk, they tell you all the calorie and etc. Okay, the same thing soon for the organization. Okay, so now of course the question is this: does organization need EA to achieve this? Okay, this I think the question that we all need to know. Okay, so these 17 goals, right? So some of you maybe first time, some of you already repeated seeing these goals many times, and I believe you already know which goal that your organization is focusing at, right? Even for my company, we have about 6 goals that we need to align. Okay, so let me just show you the first one, like no poverty, right? So we need to know on family and income status. Okay, if you think as a government, which ministry is that? You roughly know that ministry looking after this, right? To make sure that no poverty. And of course, organization as well need to make sure that you can sustain the business, hire more people, so that you know all the staff well-being are taken care. Okay. Then the second one, zero hunger. We need to know food demand, demand and supply. Okay. And of course, we need to make sure that everyone is enough food. But interestingly, during the COVID, right? Which of the so-called in the supermarket that people snap? The food? No. Toilet paper, which I don't understand. Okay, during the pandemic lockdown, they snap in all the toilet paper. I don't know why. Supposed to be food, isn't it? Right? Then of course we need to know on the healthcare and lifestyle, right? That's why I got all the Ministry of Health looking after the well-being of all the people, right? So all this we need. You can start guessing. What technology do we need to get this? Okay. Of course, quality education, right? We need to know all type of the education level, you know, because they want to know that they got mandatory certain level that every citizen must fulfill, right? Of course, gender equality is also very, very important, right? No biases, etc. Equal opportunity. Then clean water and sanitation. I think we are very lucky, right? Singapore is one, I think, one of the, maybe in the Asian country is the only country that you can drink directly from tap water, right? And no diarrhea or etc. Okay, so all these are also being part of the measurement, right? Of course, affordable, clean energy, and then of course we need to know GDP, employment, decent work, economic growth. Make sure that everyone get the job. Okay. And talking about the job, I've been monitoring the architect job in Singapore. At any point in time, I think they got thousands of opening vacancy and cannot be fulfilled. Cannot be filled. So where do we get that? Import lah. And this has been talking about 6 years, you know. I remember 7 years ago when I first justified, I need to form the EA chapters. Why? I told the SCS, escorted, too many demand on architect and it cannot be fulfilled. Okay? We need to import. Until today, we're still importing. What? Zero availability of the local talent of the architects. Despite our chapters already 7 years old. Right? Meaning that some people trying to get in there and you know, they don't know what to do. Right? But the job is there, plentiful. Right? I got all the network that hiring architects and struggling. They cannot find people. Okay? Even they can find the people, it's very hard to keep them as well. Okay? Because there got so many demand out there. Demand is outstrip the supply. And of course, industry, innovation, infrastructure. So I will just go all the way list of the thing, right? What do you think I can conclude about this SDG is that they need some sort of framework, isn't it, to answer this? To provide this information. How do you know? If your bosses say, how well are we meeting the SDG, what's our ESG rating? How do you answer that? I don't know, boss. Let me check the department. I'm not involved. I already passed my Excel data to them. Let them crunch the data, right? So there must be some sort of the framework that we need to do, and we need to adopt the technology into the context, right? So the context of the ESG is that they group the 17 goals, right, into the environmental, governance, and social. That's why I call it ESG. Okay, the originated coming from the goal. Anyway, this is all the public pictures. Like you can just Google it. They got everywhere, right? So basically, the context is that they got some sort of the classification, right? So now my next topic is that we as an architect, right, as an IT people, what technology stack come in mind to realize this goal? Are you going to use Excel, crunching Excel? We become Excel architect. Okay. And then the Excel architect is version architect, Excel version 101A. After that afternoon, 101B. And then tomorrow, 102. Wow. Count by the number of days of the year. Okay? Crunching all the information. So, of course, this is the technology that we can adopt, isn't it? Very common. So this is also another good motivation to adopt all the sexy technology. Okay? In the past, we have been trying the opportunity, right, to adopt all the RFID, cognitive, cloud, mobile, machine learning, 3D, advanced robotic, big data analytics, and etc. So, of course, now talking about adopting this technology. Okay, we don't have architecture. What will happen? What will happen? I don't know. Don't ask me, Aaron. My team are still busy doing, right? So I have about 8 observations, right? 8 observations in terms of how the ESG goals are being so-called achieved today or being realized. Okay, first, as business as usual, contact ESG vendor for solution. Why? That's the easiest part. What? I just Google ESG technology. Suddenly, Singapore got 20 lists. Call them one by one. Ask them to do beauty contest. Okay. After that, what happened? We do tender exercise. Choose the cheapest one. Award to them. Okay. My job done. Right? Do you think it happen? Some sort lah. Okay. When they do test data, they can simulate the thing, and then. But after that, not sustainable. Right? You jump straight into the solution. Secondly, you talk about the goal, right? You need to be tied in with the strategy. And today, talking about business and IT strategy integration, right? We cannot just do the ESG strategy. We need to have business and IT strategy and embed in every layers or the goal, right? Third one, we need to have a framework and methods for sustaining that KPI, right? Of course, the technology all there, the solutioning to pump the real information, the data, but we need to have some sort of framework and method. We cannot just do a one-time off, right? Of course, the next one is treat as another IT project. Okay, I got the project 6 months, right? After the project done, what happened? The team moved to another project. Who's going to maintain? I don't know. Somebody else. We're going to outsource. Okay, and if the cycle back again, right? The next one, of course, talking about the not part of the digital transformation, because why? Only reporting, okay. And talking about this, typically is that the vendor that number one. Typically, all the data warehouse vendor, you know, the BI vendor, they evolve, now become ESG. Because why? Sellable. Reporting, that's both, everybody's done it. Now we sell the ESG part, they buy. Okay, back to the normal, back to the square one again, right? The next one, of course, compliant purpose. Why? Need to comply. Because now some of the, I heard some of the company already putting the rating, right? So we just come out, okay? How do you know the rating is a real rating? Nobody knows, right? Because the data is crunching from everywhere, anywhere. And of course, lack of integrated roadmap plan, right? So, not sure. Never mind, see what happened until 2030. Okay? Now, until 2030, we will be forgiven. Okay? And of course, the sad part is that no EAO. So, we don't know how to run, right? You do number one, it work one time. Okay? The next sustaining the sustainability is a question mark, right? So, of course, what happened now if you attempt to model the architecture with those 8 observations? What happened? What do we get? Very pretty, point-to-point, hairball architecture, isn't it? Okay? This is what we have been doing, right? And how do you fix this? Never mind, another team. By the time my boss promoted me up to the next level, some other team will take over this. Okay? And of course, if we map it again, the initiative, every department achieving different goal. So what happened? They engage different vendor. So the many duplication, repetition, and etc. Okay? So some of you, I think, have not reached this one yet, but almost there, isn't it? Because the activity just very active in the last 1-2 years. Okay? So you are still now in the implementing phase 1. Phase 1 is still honeymoon, right? When you honeymoon, first marriage, still everything okay. After 1-2 years, then you know what happened. Okay? But now I bring forward to the future. Because you will also have this, right? Start blaming each other. Okay, guaranteed that. One department, hey, you give me not accurate data. That's why now they got the rating coming. The assessor tell me it's not correct. Blaming each other. Okay, the blame game will start very soon. Okay, maybe next year or end of the year. So of course now what we are talking about, how can we fix and avoid all these egg pitfall, right? Instead of doing from the strategy go into the transformation, right? We should have some sort of the architecture, isn't it? So this, I think you have seen this slide, but it's still valid today, right? And instead of putting the architecture inside the transformation, which is pretty much too late, okay? My analogy is like you're putting the architect, right? A very good architect, but you handcuff the hand and the leg, and also tape the mouth. You can't talk. Because why? Once the architect talk something, people tell you, this Aaron troublemaker. Next time, don't bring him into the project. Okay? He asks all the questions that we cannot answer and going to delay the project. So just ignore him. Okay? By the time to sign off, just tell him, you better sign off by noon. The CEO going to make announcement. I sign off. Then hopefully nothing happen. If thing happen, what happen? Call him. He sign off. I see his name. Okay? So this is what happened when you move straight strategy to the transformation. So you need to have some sort of architecture. We need to understand, right? Just now all the character that we take sharing, we need to apply that in the architecture, right? So how can we describe this? How can we so-called give a vision, not only vision, basically the target architecture. How are we going to make a sustainable, right? Sustainable program. And of course, we are talking here about digitally connected, right? End to end. Today, I think we are in the digital world. I think the enterprise architecture also already evolved towards digital. We unlikely can survive with the Excel and PowerPoint, right? At the end, we become the PowerPoint architect or Excel architect. And that's not no longer sexy in today's context, right? We need to have a platform that can give us all the visibility so that we can understand that in every layer, which of the ESG KPI goal that we are assigning, right? You can talk from the strategy itself, right? What goal you're trying to achieve, right? You assign that selecting out of 17 how many goals, right? And then in terms of the business, which are the business department or process that we need to change, we need to transform in order to achieve the goal in the strategy, isn't it? Then after that, you look at the information. What data do we require? Can we sustain this data, right? Is the data need to be so-called processed better? Okay, we understand the architecture. Then you start talking to the vendor, okay, application and technology. You start calling them to find out what can they do for you. Okay, now of course the practice is that they go straight away to talk to the vendor, which I think not too right. Okay, but they are very good. The vendor I've spoken to, they are very knowledgeable. But the fact is that many organizations are not ready. They don't have the first 3 layers. They go straight jump into the application and the technology layers. Okay. Of course, you heard about TOGAF, right? So TOGAF, I think now is the 10th edition, which is pretty much focusing a lot on the transformation and also putting architecture in the senior management, right? If you ever look at the learning outcome, they put the scenario about 18 scenario, right? About putting architects with the CEO. Okay, it's still reporting typically under CIO lah. But you are being called or being dialogue with the CEO, asking about the business strategy, right? How can now the architect sit in the board of director? Okay, in the past, architect talking about what? TCP/IP, network, XML. Now no more. Now talking about capability, right? Talking about business goal, business driver. Okay, talking about the business process, business function, product, services, right? And the rest is taken as it is lah. Like just now we talking about the garden in the sky. You don't talk about the bricks and the number of beams, right? Of course, that one is taken, have to. But not talking about how you can have a good so-called target architecture, okay? So I think those of you who have applied or practiced TOGAF, then you know the ABCD is where you do development, the architecture, and EFG is where you do execution, okay? So, of course, the architecture take place before the software development or before the IT project management. Yeah? So, this is the message of TOGAF. And, of course, what we are trying to do is always moving, right? So, architecture is not always one time off, right? Many people confuse, I've done my architecture 2 years ago. No, that's not architecture. That's project. Architecture is always continuation, it's always a journey, right? It's always moving to a better tomorrow, okay? So, that's why we need to have someone or the team in the organization, right, is keep thinking forward, right, to improve, to transform, right? Because now, as well, so many transformation project is the one time, no different than the IT project in the past lah. Whereby actually you need to have a continuation. That's why you need to have the roadmap, right, the architecture, so that you can run multiple projects. So how do we go about doing that? We need to make sure that we have a so-called a measurement, right? Like, for instance, of the ESG goal in terms of the business fit, application fit, technology fit, capability fit, and also transformation fit, right? And how can we basically apply this to execute our transformation properly, yeah? Of course, the next one I want to connect is about 3C, right? Collating, connecting, and correcting the dots, right? Now, of course, assuming that know this 3C, who has all the information in the organization? Who knows about connecting one particular dot, etc.? Maybe they can connect a cluster lah, okay? A cluster of few departments. Why? Because Aaron already worked 20 years so in that department lah. He knows everybody lah. But when I move him to another place, wah, totally blur. He doesn't even know the process and etc. So how do you connect the dot? It's a very, very challenging, right? Today, this is what happened that hinders many of the organizations to transform fast. They can transform but very slow. Because why? Some of the organization trying to hoard the information. I don't want to share. Because why? Maybe I just don't like you lah. I don't like the way you smile lah. Forget about it lah. I'm not going to share the information. Okay? Or perhaps I can just tell you that even your boss, so I will not share lah. So because you are not at that level, this is classified information. I say, hello, what do you mean by classified? I need to get the information for me to transform, right? I need to get information for me to churn out the ESG rating. Sorry, you are too junior to this for this. Right? So it's all this type of nonsense lah in the organization, right? It's what we call it office politics. Okay? So how do we break that politic? Right? No other way. Okay? Of course, organization typically have the two strategy, business and IT strategy. And interestingly, if you ever take a look at the business strategy, it's about productivity, about making more money for the corporation, improve processes, more efficient, etc. What is inside IT strategy? Typically, spending. Okay, upgrade, moving to the cloud, cost 20 million. All type of the money lah. This one is to bring money, they want to spend money. So it balance up lah. Right? That's why the IT is always being said that IT people are just big spender lah. Okay, cost center. Okay, so how do we fix this? Right? Of course, we need to connect with some sort of architecture, right? So the connection first take place at the business layer, right? We need to know the strategy and the business, how they are connected. And all these are not stopping here, right? Need to be supported by the IT. This is what I'm talking about architecture, isn't it? And all this, of course, not only a concept, need to be designed. Okay, it will not happen by default. By default, it will not happen. By default, it's broken. Every organization. If you don't believe, those of you who are parents, you have more than 2 kids, what happened? Do they play politics? When there's more, guarantee they play politics. Right? They blame each other, isn't it? Want something crying, they say, oh, blame by he, whatever lah. They want to buy, bring them to the toy shop, right? One, buy the toy, you have need to buy 2. Why they don't want crying? You agree to buy 2. After bring home, they don't even touch the toy. That's our office politics, isn't it? We fight. After that, after win, forget it. We find another enemy. Okay? So if we never get connected one, if you put human to work together, we need to have a system, isn't it? There's an architecture coming to connect the dot. And of course, how do we do this, right? So now I'm talking to you about how are we going to connect from motivation, strategy, business, application, and technology. The context is here about why, how, with what, and when, by what. Okay? So all these questions that we need to answer. Okay? The answer all these are. So motivation, what do you mean by motivation? Of course, you ask, why must I do transformation, boss? Okay? If I need to get involved, who are the stakeholders? Okay? What value are we talking about in here? Right? What are the goals we are trying to achieve? Right? What are the outcome, principle, and requirement at the end of the day? What actually we need, right? How do we model this? Can you model this? Of course you can in the context of architecture today, right? So we need to come up some sort of the meta model. You can treat this as the database table, right? This, by the way, is Archimate. So Archimate is the common notation that can be applied, right? And all these are not PowerPoint, it's not Excel. These are all live objects that you can interact, that you can query, you can analyze, you can ask questions, right? And this is, of course, capturing at the senior management level, okay? What we call it motivation. And of course, the next one, how can we achieve this? We need to come up with a strategy, right? Talking about, remember just now, business IT strategy. So how do we fulfill the requirement, right? What sort of strategy, course of action? What capability require? What resources do we need? Right? We cannot say, I want this, boss. I need the resources, boss. Okay, I need to build this capability. We have identified these 5 capabilities that we need to focus at. Okay? Can we model this? Of course. All these are connected, right? Cost of action to realize the requirement, the good value stream, capability, resources. So we need to model this, right? Everything needs to have design, right? We cannot just assign the team, never mind, let them run. They'll be headless chicken for a few months. Okay? So we need to answer this. Of course, the next one is that about with what. First, what do we need to change? We need to look at the business layer, right? What are the processes that we need to change in order to incorporate now the new goals, right? And then what business function that we need to change? Who need to get involved, right? The business role. And of course, the business services. Is there any business services that we need to acquire or to provide, right? Can we model this? Of course, the answer is yes, right? We need to model this. So everything is by design, right? So that's why the architecture is about, just now we did a very good introduction about the art, okay? So we need to know all this, and not everything happen by chance, everything by design, okay? Of course, the next one we talk about application, right? What are the application processes, right? What are the module there, function, data object, database table required, right? So we should be able to model and how that support the business, isn't it? Who has this meta model in your organization? Sure, somebody has, but in the people head, and they don't like to share. Why? Because when they share, they lose the safety, the job security, okay? But actually, we need to share, opening up, right? So that we can have, the organization work in harmony, okay? Because the next one is about technology. How do we know about technology process, function, our data center, our network, our hosting, what are the components that we currently have in our data center? Who knows that? My infra guy. Where's the infra guy? Today on seminar. So I cannot answer, boss. Maybe tomorrow when he come back. Okay, tomorrow is Friday, yeah? Tomorrow suddenly got MC. Next week, boss, nobody knows. Scary, isn't it? Right? So this how you should answer, right? And then all these are fully traceable, right? All this is the framework for you to answer any enterprise question, right? Of course, now, if you thought all this, can you answer? Can. But it takes me weeks or months, or maybe years. Okay, by the time months, my boss forgotten already. He already moved on. He asked another question, he forget one, easily forget one. Because he kept asking 2-3 months ago, now you give him the answer, he so forgot one, right? Then, of course, the last part is on the project, right? Wow, transformation project. So what is our current in-flight project that contribute to my strategy, right? We should be able to show them, right? So these are the current project, right? Are the phases, right? These are the things that involve, right? The project manager understand all these are interconnected. This is just a glimpse of a typical enterprise meta model, right? That every organization should have, but they don't have it. But they exist in the tribe. You know the tribe? All the department, all the people that normally those work long enough, they just hoard the information, they don't like to share. Okay? So this one need to be so-called contribute into the central repository as a single source of truth. Okay. And of course, now talking about digitally connected enterprise model, right, for motivation, strategy, business, application, technology. So how do we start, right? Of course, ideally, if you have the opportunity, the support coming from the top. But now with the SDG and ESG, I think the board of directors have no choice, right? So you can cascade down the so-called the modeling from their motivation and strategy layers, right? What make them worry about ESG? What make them cannot sleep at night? Okay? Of course, I can tell you the rush hour happening at the 2030, maybe October, November. Because by then, if your company don't have the rating, if you are listed, maybe delisted. Okay? If you are the nation, maybe got some political, whatever, I don't know. Okay? So the rush hour happening at the 2030. Okay? Hopefully all of us will be ready, right? By 2 years from now. Not do a rush minute job by 2030, because the deadline is 2030 globally. Okay? So we need to understand and model this type of the so-called relationship. Once we understand the motivation and strategy, right? We need to understand in terms of the business, the impacted business, isn't it? Right? Just now, this is another dimension of just now my model in the previous slide, but it's the same concept, right? And this need to be applied to all the organization. You like it or not? If you don't do it, then forever the information residing in the tribe, in the few department or few people in the organization, and this it will hinder your transformation speed, right? And of course, from there you understand the application, the technology, as well as the information required, right? So all these are very, very important for the so-called sustainability, right? You fix sustainability once for all to sustain for many years to come, right? And of course, talking about the project, right? The project, the in-flight project, and of course, all this typically, this is the meta model. You understand the concept of meta model? It's like database table, but this database table for your organization, okay? Be it in the government, be it in the enterprise, okay? You need to have some sort of the design of your meta model, and this meta model not the same. Every organization is different, okay? I have dealt with 5 banks developing the meta model. All the banks are different, okay? I can tell you, I cannot copy, totally different, unique. Every bank is unique, right? So it's no point to copy. Even like the same thing like customer. You design a database table of the customer. Of course they got the commonality They got customer ID, customer name, address. That one standard But the rest are different, right? Different businesses got different information what they capture. Okay, and from there you can fulfill all the of course Industry 4.0 and all the SDG, ESG right? So basically, this is the wake-up call, right? I haven't seen the EA being applied to the SDG, ESG yet. Hopefully after this, we will see more and more, okay? Then become a showcase rather than the one-time off. Because like transformation, right? The transformation like 5 years ago, everybody talk about transformation everywhere, right? If any conference without the word transformation, the boss will not approve you. Like today, I believe your boss approve you because the word sustainability. Go Listen to what the SCS has to talk about sustainability, right? Because boss got sustainability word. 20 years ago, must have client server. If no client server, don't want to attend conference. And 15 years ago, must have the word internet. Go internet, send. My boss said, okay, Aaron, go internet. You go find out what they're talking about. So the next 2-3 years will be all about sustainability. Okay? And of course, you can also need to attend the vendor talk, right? Because you need the technology to adopt. But don't forget, you do architecture first before you adopt the technology. Don't do the other way around. Too late. Okay? Right? So typically in the organization, right, you got the PMO and ITSM. This exists in every organization today, right? If you don't, unlikely you will survive. Okay? Of course, now what we are talking about, the architecture office. So this one is still half functioning, what I can see today. Okay? Only few organizations have a full functioning EA team, right? So the EA team, of course, got application, data, technology, and the business architecture. Of course, the connection, the bridge between the EAO and the PMO and the ITSM is the solution architecture. Okay? The solution architect is bridging between what the architecture is being defined to the actual execution in the project. Okay? But today, I can tell you, the solution architect is the most abused title, right? The printer jam, cannot network, cannot connect, core solution architect. Okay? You want to ask the demo, the whatever, core solution architect. Because why? Sexy architect. But actually, poor kaliao job, right? Not nice, the job, right? Do everything. And then in the project, when the solution architect assists in the project, just now I mentioned, actually it's like the architect, you handcuff. Handcuff the hand and the leg, and then tape the mouth. Cannot one. Because everything already preset. Project manager already tell you, hey, this is the Gantt chart, Aaron, don't touch, don't interrupt. Because if when architect ask the question, suddenly interrupting. Oh yeah, how come nobody talk? Shut up lah. Okay, we need to deliver tomorrow Friday. Sign off. So you don't bring up this issue. So architect is basically PT lah if you're solution architect. Okay, puas kali your job. Let me know if you're not. Okay, so, but we need to fix this, right? Then after that, of course, the business architect, we need to spread the wing, right? All line of business, all the department of the business unit, right, need to have the extended business architect. This is what we call it the demand architecture, right? So they request the architecture, like now ESG, SDG, no issue, okay? The demand. And this is why the supply architecture. And of course, the bottom part is where just now the meta model that I'm talking about, right? You need to do round trip for every so-called vertical. You're not only working in the architecture team, the system, no visibility lah, Aaron. I don't know. I have to call my IT architect, system architect. I don't know. You need to have the round trip. The bottom part, I think you're familiar with BPMN, right? The ISA, the Archimate, the TOGAF, the UML, ERD, all need to be connected. So what do you mean by connection? The connected enterprise, right? So this is the model, right? This is a business layer, application and technology layer. Okay? This is just Archimate, not a big deal, right? I think Archimate has been around for 12 years, right? So if you want to make your architecture simpler, apply Archimate. So once you come up this Archimate as your master blueprint, right? The connectivity of the enterprise, then you can extend to your critical journey map, right? Customer journey or critical journey map, doesn't really matter. You extend that, and then you can hover back to your main architecture. Today, many organizations, they just do journey map by themselves, right? And then they typically use what? Mahjong paper. Okay, the room like this, all mahjong paper, someone take photo, put in the PowerPoint, happy already. Done already, my critical journey. But how do you not connect to the business application technology? I don't know. I pass it to CIO already. CIO taken my input already. My PowerPoint inside got 300 slides. My CIO took already. Then what happened to the CIO? Don't know. Passing to the CRM team. CRM team said, hey, this one have already what? This one have already what? This one have, everything have all. Back to square one. After that, customer issue again, right? I think you know what I'm talking about, right? If you ever experience the telco, no, I'm not. Anyone here from telco? Very bad. Okay? Very, very bad experience. I've tried all the telco. Because they have the map, but they're not connected. Broken. Right? Then after that, from there, you can understand the business process. Hey, what happened? Why customer complain? Why this Aaron keep calling this number? He has the real situation. In the customer journey is defined, but our process don't have. You get this? Connected. Round trip. I can straight away troubleshoot. Now don't have this. Call their department. That department somewhere, many business process, customer journey, they outsource. You know what happened when they outsource? I've dealt with one of major telco. They outsource to the operation, to another company. Then I know already when they're talking, I said, sorry, you are not the real parent. You are just a maid taking care of the son. Can I talk to the mother or father? I tell him straight away, can I talk to the mother or father? You are not the mother or father of this one. Oh, sorry, whatever. I said, you're wasting my time. Because it's broken, right? It's the same, right? I think many enterprises today in this context, right? If not, you let me know. Then the next one, I want to know about my data, right? Why that one is not captured? You can zoom in, what? Okay, I'm talking about this one about one click. I'm not talking about having a 3 meeting. In 2 months I can capture this. No organization, I guarantee you, you can't have this information. All need to have a separate team, and they try to keep the information from the other team to know. Hide, Aaron coming, hide, all the field hide. Cannot see. Because if he come, he ask question, jalan. We have overtime this weekend. This weekend I got my family trip. Right? Then after that, we need to also know about all the module, right? The vendor when they submit. Okay? All these are common. Organization have, but in the island, all this joint one. Right? And then the most they have in one, Visio. What the use of Visio? As soon as you save the file, immediately obsolete. And immediately become worthless. Right? Because why? Things change. And I cannot interact, what? Right? Does that make sense? So this is basically a glimpse of the full impact analysis. You want to know about why, how, everything. So if your architecture cannot answer, you open up this map. Hey, why not answering? Why just now my data department raised a very valid question. Oh, because this one not connected. Can you open up this one? Okay, I open up. Can you look at the attributes? Oh, no wonder we don't capture. You can straight away find out what? Right? Of course, now the question is, who's going to do this? We all are in this room. Right? It's the opportunity, right? If you don't do, somebody else will do. Right? And of course, with that, we can tailor, right? Different stakeholders. Start onboarding various stakeholders to the EA program. Okay? Of course, talking now about digital EA platform, right? So there'll be a platform that you need to configure correctly. And you can run. And you can give all various stakeholders what interests them. Okay? Like the security team, Chief Risk Officer. Giving them all the risk information, right? And they want to get audit, just open up this dashboard. Right? That's what happened to many organizations, even the hospital, right? They want to get the audit, they open up this. The report all there. Now what happened? Turn out various team, called all the nurses, the doctors, submit the Excel. Got someone central PMO office, consolidate the Excel, come out the chart, using a P4 table. Right? After that, audit pass, okay, hang. Tomorrow is coming again. Start exercise again. Why not just click on the button? Right? Whatever you need to do in the audit, in the task, right? Automate them. Rather than pass around the, of course, SharePoint is good, but not enough. Okay? We need the so-called the platform to run this. All right, with that, I think I will end my sharing. Sorry, a bit overrun, but I think we move into the next interesting part. That's all the boring part already ended. All right, thank you so much for your attention.